Welcome back, everybody. It's episode 60 of the Paddle Talk podcast here with World Sand Drag News. This episode, we're going to be talking everything safety within the sport of sand drags. We're going to be talking about the PSDA new safety rules, how we think about those, what we think should be changed, what things maybe they didn't go far enough on. We're going to talk about car safety on that side of the sport, as well as what the tracks and promoters can do. And as always, this episode is brought to you by Racing in the Dirt. Check them out at racinginthedirt.com. Welcome back, everybody, to the Paddle Talk podcast. I'm kind of filling in here for Isaac and Billy, so I apologize if the intro here is a little shaky, but this is episode 60 of the Paddle Talk podcast. I'm joined by Kyle Wiedemeyer, John Sorg, and Damian Bowers, and this is going to be kind of a big mega episode. This segment is all about safety of the sport, and it is brought to you guys by Racing in the Dirt. Racing in the Dirt has over 40 years of experience playing out here in the sand, mud, and dirt. They've got everything from rear tires, chain drive components, all the way up to full chassis builds to get you ready for the 2025 season. You can hit them up at racinginthedirt.com or email them at scott@racinginthedirt.com, and you can also call them at 920-693-2000. That's 920-693-2000. Once again, hit up racinginthedirt.com to get all of your Go Fast parts for the mud, sand, and dirt. All right, folks, we're talking safety here. Many of you guys have been following the sport, have seen that recently with the PSDA Pro Sand Drag Association season kicking off next week at Dome Valley Raceway. We've got some new safety packages that the PSDA board has put on here. We're going to go through those real quick. Damian, John, I know K-Dub's probably seen them, but Damian, John, have you guys seen these before?
I've looked over a couple of them here and there.
Okay, so we got some familiarity, so that's good. We're going to go through them one by one here. We'll go and read through all of them real quick for all the viewers that haven't seen these posts. And then we'll kind of give our thoughts on some of them and some criticisms, some funny things, some arguments that we've seen with them. The first rule that they're adding for the 2025 season is that all riders will be required to wear a neck brace. That could be a hard neck brace or even just like a neck roll, just like you might see on a lot of the car racers. They recommend, not require, but they recommend that all riders wear a chest protector, some sort of, chest and spine protection. All riders are required to wear over the ankle rubber sole boots, no sneakers or slippers. Number 4, all riders are required to wear long jean pants or equivalent. So no longer can you wear sweatpants, yoga pants, joggers, anything like that. And they're also making it a requirement that those pants of like denim or equivalent material cannot have any rips or tears in them. 5th rule they're adding is that every rider is required to wear motocross style gloves or some sort of hand protection equivalent to that. Number 6, all riders are required to wear protective eyewear. They prefer a full face visor, but they're also saying that you can wear safety goggles or glasses, but they must meet ANSI Z87.1 standards. 7, this is kind of a new one for some chassis components. All aftermarket front spindles are required to be welded or full solid billet construction. Spindles that are bolted together are not permitted. This is something that they're not going to enforce until their second event of the season at Shelton's in April, but they're recommending it for the upcoming event in February at Dome Valley. 8, all handlebars are going to be required to have hand grips or grip material. Can't do bare bars. They said that baseball or skateboard grip is permitted, but obviously you can have rubber hand grips as well. Mm-hmm. Number 9, the seat pans that are not equipped with a backrest, which we'll see on a lot of the drag race style ATVs, those must have some sort of grip material on the seat. So they don't want to have a slick seat pan. 10, When racing, the rider must have their head up and facing forward. They're not permitted to be able to tuck all the way down in a way that impedes the vision. I know we talked a little bit about that the other week, Damian. So we'll get more into that because we got K Dub on here, and we're gonna get some tuck ratings for that for sure. And the last rule that they are saying on here is that number 11, aluminum heim joints are not permitted on suspended A-arm components. You can use them on tie rods, but not on A-arm components. And that is another rule that is going to be enforced at Shelton's in April, but not at Dome just because of the short notice. So, no, that's a lot. First of all, K-Dub, biggest standout that you think in that rule package there from the PSDA?
So I think the thing that really were needed were the aluminum hind joints and then the spindles. This is the spindle that I own, and then it was originally designed to be pressed together, and then how could you trust this being one of the most critical parts of your chassis? So I think that's the most important thing right there. This one got tacked well together. The other things, I think a lot of it's just common sense. Common sense. I'm not the biggest fan of gloves, but I'm not gonna fight it. I don't really care too much. Then chest protector is recommended. I think the people I know someone who recommended chest protector, and then she said it was all the difference in the world. Like she walked away with just bruises. So that's something to think about for those guys. Ankle high boots. I'm definitely a guy who always breaks the rules. And you look at me, I'm just in my Sambas, and then if you call me out, I'll go get my wrestling shoes, and then just like Simpsons, which I still think technically follow the rules. They are ankles. They're not really boots.
Yeah, based upon the way that they wrote it, it is interesting.
The way they wrote it was
anything...
for the Keep Simpsons. Everyone likes the Simpsons shoes, and then the way they wrote it was to keep Simpsons legal, which I don't blame them because I hate boots. Like wearing boots and riding a bike, I hate it to that because I can't feel the shifter. But they just want something to give your ankles a little bit of protection because I've had my foot stuck under my bike, and I know everyone else has. So that's definitely something they needed to get in writing. I think it was in writing, but I think they clarified.
Yeah, I thought so too. That was one thing that was I believe that was in the writing.
The problem with the PSDA was the last like 2 years we've just been having bad wreck after bad wreck after bad wreck after bad wreck, and then let's go around like David Turner. We just got him home 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I mean, Gilbert was last October. I mean, like a sport we like that's fun, but like his livelihood's all gone now, and he's in a wheelchair. I mean, it's just horrible. So they're trying to curb it a little bit to try to prevent it, which it's hard because the genie's out of the bottle. And then what I think if the things like if you go 10 years ago with drag bikes. 10 years ago, like the big triples were running 330s, 340s, and we thought that was fast, and now they're running 2.9s. I mean, like 120 miles an hour, and we got like 90-pound kids on it. And it's just gone so out of control and so far. And you got people like in Michigan, we had a guy building stock frames with like aluminum parts that were just snapping. And then it was like we had to stop this or curb it. So the PSDA, they're kind of like the gold standard in drag bike racing. They're just trying to say, well, if you're coming to our races, you're going to try to meet these standards, so we can try to curb some of these bad wrecks. I can think off the top of my head, like there's one guy who rides a four-stroke. I'm not really going to name names, but I'm sure everyone knows. Like these four-stroke chassis are so flexy that he's got his leg cut open deep 2 times at 2 different races just because of the way chains and the bikes were twisting up. And then like the second time we're like, how the hell does this happen again? And then that was one of the rules they changed a couple of years ago where they went from the 4-stroke had to be a stock chassis, so everyone went so deep like into the 4-stroke chassis, all titanium, all carbon fiber, and then it just became these flexy dangerous flyers. So was one of the rules they changed was saying, all right, you can make a Banshee chassis just like everyone else is. But they definitely needed to do something. We can't just let these terrible wrecks happen over and over and over and over and over. Like me going to the races, I can think off the top of my head of like two helicopters coming, and then one ambulance where I gave mouth to mouth to the guy because his spindle broke, and then he just wasn't breathing. He wasn't breathing on the side. He was just testing his bike on the side of the road, and he was also drinking. So I mean, there's a few things that also in play, but spindle
Bad
broke.
combo there.
And spindle broke and he wasn't breathing when I got there. And I had to like give him mouth to mouth until I get him to breathe. He had a pulse still, thankfully, until we got the ambulance. So I mean, it's just getting wild. And then I know Jeff Gio and the PSC, like Nick Bennett and the PSCA board, it's just sickening to them too, because they don't want to be, these are our friends. It's not like they're the strangers. These are our friends. We're seeing like Dave Turney is a friend of mine. He rides on bikes. He goes all the races. He's a good guy, great family. And then now he's just screwed. I mean, it's just bad. So they're like, we can make fun of the rules all you want and be mad about like every little thing, but they're trying to do something. So that's pretty
Yeah,
much
no, I think Caleb, you're hitting
that.
it on the head there. I mean, everybody with the PSDA board, these are all racers as well. And you're right. They are tired of seeing their friends get hurt, and not just, a mild accident. These, we've had several years now where it's been serious events at each of these PSDA events, and some of it is the rider protection, some of it's the chassis design. And I think the one thing that people get caught up with in these roles is they don't want to adhere to any of these safety standards, because they're saying, well, wearing a chest protector, wearing gloves, doing this, doing that, that's not going to prevent me from getting hurt. You're right, it's not going to prevent you from getting hurt, but in the event that you do wreck, like, these things are supposed to mitigate those injuries. And you were talking, Caleb, about somebody having a chest protector, which that's just a recommended rule right now.
Yeah, but Valerie, I don't want to embarrass her, but she came off of bike doing 90 something mile an hour.
Oh man, yeah,
and then
that was scary.
off of it. And then like I was there taking a video, so I ran up to her and got her head and C-spine, and then like I was just amazed. She was like just fine. She wasn't fine. She bruised ribs, maybe a cracked rib. I can't remember the extent, but like she was walking. She saved her the whole event and had to go to the hospital to need ice. I mean, it's a huge difference. I think it could help.
Mm-hmm. John and Damian, you guys are from the car side of the sport. Obviously, you guys have seen plenty of ATV racers at events that you guys go at. What's been just kind of going off of that list there? What do you think is going to make like the biggest impact for the safety of the ATV racers?
What's going to make the biggest impact is somebody actually finally stepping up to the plate and doing something about it. To me, that's key. Individual rules and stuff, I'm not going to go through them all on you, but like K-Dub did, because he's like way into it. It's good to see somebody step up and do this. So many tracks will put out rules and they don't enforce them. Oh yeah, we got the rule, but we don't enforce them, or we're afraid that that's going to piss off that guy, so we're just going to let it go today. Like just say somebody shows up and runs ATV at our track with T-shirts on. I'm sorry, I've seen it let go, and they know it's a rule. They see it happen, yet they're scared to go piss somebody off and say,
to tell them you have to put a long sleeve shirt on. Come on.
Right. Yeah. But they're scared. The owners are scared to scare a racer away and tell them, hey, look, you got to follow the rules or you're not going down my track. And I think that's what's good about what these guys are doing, because they're telling you, hey, look, if you don't follow our rules, you're not going down our track. So I think we need to see a little bit more of that in the sport, and keep seeing it going in that direction. I mean, safety is a big deal.
Yeah. Damian, what's your take on it?
I'm along the same lines of John there. It's something that we always see, especially around here in the car world. It's, oh, we can't require that. We can't require them to wear this. We can't require them to wear that. We can only recommend they wear that. When it comes to fire suit, when it comes to head and neck restraints, and I'll be honest, I'm one of the guys that hasn't wore head and neck restraint yet. I just got one finally this year. I used to be one of those guys that wouldn't wear a fire suit until I started running nitrous, and then I really started wearing it all the time. And it's just one of those things of, we can require this, because if we don't, it's not just the riders we're all looking to protect. We're looking to protect the sport itself, because rider injuries, spectator injuries when they occur, those are what hurt the sport, because if they get out, the major news publications start reporting on this, insurance companies look at the tracks. And then it really gets bad for the tracks.
No, for sure. I mean, I think that's one thing that people don't think about enough. I think the very racers that you guys are talking about that, like, oh, they're worried that the owners or the promoters or whoever's running the show is worried about pissing them off. They're the type of people that if you do tell them, hey, you got to go put a long sleeve shirt on, bare minimum safety requirement there for doing something, they're gonna be like, oh, I'm not gonna race and stuff. It's ridiculous because they say, oh, I'm taking this risk. I signed my waiver at the gate. They don't understand. I mean, and I'm just looking at Dave's situation here. I think that they've been pretty good about it, but Caleb said Dave is out of work, folks. He cannot do his job anymore. Like this is such a shock to his family. And when you start saying, oh, I'm never going to be the type that goes and sues, I'm never going to be that person, things change very quickly when all of a sudden your livelihood, your family's livelihood is turned upside down.
And it might not even be Dave. It might be his insurance, like not Dave hypothetically, but like it might not even be the person. It might be their insurance company that sues.
Yeah, their insurance company, their spouse.
We had that situation before.
Oh yeah,
that's what happened with Franklin County. There was an incident where a car went into the pits where people shouldn't have been parked, hit a vehicle, and tipped an ATV onto a spectator's leg. That spectator said he wasn't going to sue. His insurance company went seeing, oh, this happened here? That's not covered by us. So we're going to sue X to get our money to pay for the ambulance ride. Or the medical and all of this. Thankfully, due to the insurances that the track has, that pays to deal with those issues. That was able to keep it from getting back to the track where the track had to pay all these medical bills out of pocket.
Yeah.
But that has also now labeled the track a high risk.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, Damian. I mean, we were talking Franklin County having issues with trying to get insurance coverage, at the beginning or end of last year, wasn't it?
Beginning of last year.
Yep.
Beginning of last year. So, that's the thing, folks, is that we want to have places to go race. And, look, I get it. There's maybe some tracks out there that don't have insurance. We're going to talk a little bit about that later on. But we still want to be able to go to these places, have a place to race, enjoy, our time with our friends and family out there. And when we're saying, oh, this is just my personal, choice, it's not really your personal choice anymore. You are being, a negligent person for everybody else's enjoyment because it's going to come back. Yeah, you're a huge liability by doing that. It's going to come back and you're going to ruin everybody's fun, everybody's enjoyment because your spouse, your insurance company, somebody else in your family, if you get hurt, you may not want to sue, but somebody else may. That could come back to the track. Track may get shut down because they can't afford insurance. They can't get insurance coverage. The owners get, personally sued. All kinds of crazy stuff can happen, when it comes to motorsports.
And then another argument that we always see, and this is coming from the racer's point, because I seen this with a post that you had made, Caleb, about the neck braces. And I had seen someone in there commenting, oh, how they have 5 family members that race. Oh, we're going to have to pay $200 a piece, $400 a piece for these items. Okay, $400 a piece of 5, that's $2,000. How much money do you have invested in your ATV at that point? In all 5 of these bikes? It's something I've looked at for years.
Asking these guys that crashed how much their deductibles are, how much it's costing them out of pocket now.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, let's face it, that $2,000 to protect your family is pretty freaking cheap.
Because a lot of
and you know what too, Damian? Like even at that price you're talking about, you're talking specifically that neck brace rule. We can go through some of these here. That neck brace rule, that's like a high end one, right? Like if you want to go balls to the wall, get a really nice neck brace. Yeah, it's $400 or $500 a pop. My dad just went and got one. he didn't really want to go with a super hardcore one. You can literally find neck rolls, okay, which they say are totally fine, designed for motocross racing for $50 or less.
The old
there are
foam neck
ways,
brace.
yeah, there are ways to go about these rules and not spend a ton of money. Look, I get it. We're not NHRA. We're not NASCAR. We're not Formula One. We're not asking, and I don't think the PSDA is asking any racer to go out there and say, okay, everybody's got to go and drop 10 grand on safety equipment. They're not saying that. We're talking a $50 neck brace, $15, $20 pair of gloves. The boot rule, I know K-Dub's talking about the Simpson ratio. I get it. Everybody likes those. I really wish that they would say something about actually having something that has some real ankle protection, not just a slipper that goes over your ankle. Because K-Dub, let's be honest. Let's be honest though. Okay, if you went in that situation where you ran over your foot with those Simpson race boots, do you think that's going to actually protect your ankles?
If it catches on fire afterwards, it will.
Make them not have to do some skin grafts, just have to replace the bone.
That is true. I mean, they are fire resistant and stuff.
Kyle
I get that.
Kyle does have his mic muted, by the way. So
yeah,
I don't know why.
He's pleading the fifth.
Oh, I'm just muting and unmuting for you. You'll never take my Simpson shoes. My Simpson shoes are actually wrestling shoes.
But hey, look, I'm still saying that those are better off than tennis shoes, though. And or gosh, man, the reason why they're even saying like the hard rubber sole, because people are out there wearing Crocs and flip flops trying to race, 4 flat Banshees, no bar stuff. I'm just like,
go look at Thunder Valley.
I've been very nice, I feel like, on a lot of these things, but I mean, there are people that are getting downright embarrassing at their complaints over this. Again, the neck brace thing. It's a $50 neck brace. We're drag racing. We're not in motocross. We don't have to go and maneuver around and shift our weight around the bike and look behind us and look beside us. You are just going straight. That's all you should be doing. The glove thing. This is another thing. Now, K-Dub, I know you said you don't like gloves, but you're not going to be the type of person that's going to go and fight it. There are people that are straight up saying, and I'm not going to call any of you guys out by name, and I probably, if you think I'm talking about you, I probably said the thing to 5 other people. There are people saying they're not going to attend events because they have to wear gloves. That is the stupidest, most idiotic excuse that I could see for not attending an event. That people have told me, oh, I can't wear gloves. And here's the funny part. I've been told because they're too grippy, because you can't release the clutch in time, which I would argue that literally anybody that's been on ATV that has worn gloves in the past 100 years would say you're full of shit.
You can modify gloves to be less grippy.
You can, but like, I mean, I don't think anybody like
bitch. So it's all the people are gonna come, they're gonna adjust to the rules, but they're just gonna bitch right now to Speed Academy.
And you're right, they probably are whining about it. Now look,
bitch, this is our internet war time. So
yeah, and I will say this, like, I agree, if you have a pair of gloves that doesn't fit you well, they can be uncomfortable and they may not be good to actually be on a bike. But how many of you guys have ever worn gloves like for anything? Damian, John, you guys have worn gloves, whether it's gardening gloves, something for the dragster, whatever.
Well, I actually I got a pair of fire gloves that I wear in the dragster when it's cold out.
I wear a pair of gloves,
and when it's cold out, I put them on.
Anytime I have the nitrous on and am going to be arming it in the Jeep, I have a set of gloves on.
So, but those gloves, though, you're wearing them because you know it protects your hands, okay? Mm-hmm. And you've gotten a proper fitting pair of gloves. You didn't get, like, Damian, you didn't get a pair that was 2 sizes too small.
No, right? But the way I got them was sheer luck.
Mine fit great, mine fit great, Caleb. And you'd say use a set of gloves. I was just out snow blowing a couple of days last week, because we got all that snow. So I had plenty of gloves, and they fit pretty good too.
Yeah, so just go out and, like, especially I'll say with like the motocross gloves that really saying, hey, like, that's the requirement. There's some really lightweight ones, stretchy material. They can fit tight. Because I know some people are worried about gloves being too loose on your hands and that creating like a wrinkle with where you're grabbing the handlebars or something.
Look at the Simpson gloves. I like the Simpson gloves. They're really nice.
That's true. No, that is true.
On a bike.
And that would work fine.
Yeah. Something comparable to motorcycle gloves. So if you ain't got a shop around you to go try them on, heck, some mechanics wear gloves can be very durable and protective.
Right. They're not telling you what kind of gloves are they, Caleb?
No, they're saying just motocross or equivalent. And actually, I have seen people wear those mechanics gloves, Damian, out here on the West Coast. We've had a glove rule for as long as I've been racing, I believe. And I've seen a lot of people wear just like your regular, AutoZone mechanics gloves.
Right.
Is that what you're going to get, K-Dub?
I don't know what I'm going to do right now. I might just grab some of I got a nice pair of I got a nice pair of work gloves that are like super. I might just use those.
He's just going to steal Steph's old pair.
I think it's the ones you have like handlebar grips, you're good, because some people, they weren't using handlebar grips, and I think if you don't have handlebar grips or gloves, you're kind of being dumb. But I don't know. I got a nice pair of work gloves I think I'm going to use.
You'll get some at Bucky's on the way at the truck stop or something.
Sounds like a plan.
Maybe so speaking about that, I think it's a good time to talk about some of these rules of some additional things that we think there should be. You're talking about like the grips on the handlebars. I think it's ridiculous that they're allowing just grip tape.
Well, the grip, I take that back. I've seen the grip tape. Grip tape works. It's
it does, but like, why can't they use actual handlebar grips?
They're just being dumb about weight. Like it's all like it's like you save an ounce, they feel like they just bought themselves a 10th.
Yeah, you're right. Adds up to 10 grams.
So it's just Banshee guys being Banshee guys. But
I don't know.
I think the grip tape's okay.
Hey,
I personally have not used grip tape.
Guys in the car world, so
my guy.
Yeah, I personally haven't done that, but I don't know.
Tape. He was slinging grip tape to everybody, and then it worked.
Have you ridden a bike with grip tape only on the bars? Have you ridden a bike with only grip tape on the bars?
No, I just felt it. Terrell Allen, he used to put it all on Ricky's bike, so I've been around Ricky's bikes, and I think the grip tape works pretty good, personally, because it's like a bad tape they use.
Yeah. Now, I mean, look, I could be wrong on it, but I've always thought like, hey, just put some actual,
that's what I just put
grips on it.
But I've realized my Banshee days. I figured out what weight matters and what weight doesn't matter. Like 2 ounces, it doesn't matter. 6 pounds of Wheatie bar, that's gonna get you something. Is it gonna get you a 10? No, but is it gonna get you 100? Maybe when you're trying to break a record. Sure. Right now, it's got 4.2 index classes to win. I'm gonna win them, but I don't need the shame weight to win those 4.2 indexes. So I think I'm golden.
No, yeah, and that it does bring up a good point about a lot of the record chasing with this, and like, is the fact that all of these things that they're going to require going to add weight to the riders and the bikes? Sure. Is it actually going to affect the record times?
No.
I personally don't think so. I mean, you're going to add a few ounces here and there to different stuff, but people are making these bikes faster and faster. You were talking, K-Dub, like triples were running 340s. Now a 425 runs 340s.
Yeah, it's crazy. This is how wild it is. I wish I could take a bike from now and go back in time like 12 years ago. They think I was a genius.
Oh, man, everybody'd be crapping bricks, dude. It'd be insane.
I got a friend, he changed the whole chassis, like the heaviest 425 chassis possible, because he wanted Ford pipes. And then thinking the Ford pipes were going to get him the numbers. And if we knew what we know now and just doing a lightweight chassis, he'd be 3 times faster. It's pretty wild.
No, it's crazy. Now I do want, can you show those spindles again, Kyle? Because I do want to talk a little bit about this, because there were people saying, hey, look, and I know you've got the blur on there, so you might want to take that off for a sec so people can see it a little bit more.
It looks like he's making a preview for his favorite website.
Oh, yeah.
All right, go ahead and talk again, K-Dub.
All right, I got this.
Okay.
All right, these are my E-barb
spindles.
Now these are just all pressed together. And then we got him. Sean was like, yeah, we're gonna tackle all these bad boys. So
Okay, so you're talking more to it's the actual flag like connecting to the tie
yeah,
rod
the
on
flag
the
is just
spindle.
pressed onto there. If you can kind of see right there, just
Yeah.
pressed on. So we got to put a little couple tack welds here, tack welds here. I used to have a pair of these in aluminum, which is even more sketchy. But if anyone's watching this and you need to get these e-barbs legalized, hit up my man Parrish Stewart. He takes these, he'll fully weld all around it to make them legal. So what he's doing, he's putting a bead of weld all the way around here. So Parrish Stewart, mentioned my discount, the KW discount for my world famous
-10%, so it adds to the
my world famous
price.
Europe off promotion. God, I screwed that up. I'll get it next time though.
Okay, so that was one thing that I was kind of curious about because I know there's been a lot of speculation on that. That's been the way that I've interpreted it, is that it's all that they're looking at is that little flag going to the tie rod, that has to be welded on there. Because there's all sorts of different types of spindles out there, but there's a lot that are either press fit like that or it's just bolted onto the top of the spindle. So as long as you've got that flag, it's either a solid billet piece or you've got it welded together. You're good. So the people out there with like the kingpin style ones are like, oh my gosh, this isn't going to be legal. Like, no, you're still good. But that flag has to be welded to the spindle.
Yeah, they can't be super lightweight. I might be talking a little out of school because I'll be honest, I haven't read the rules like to the T, but I believe that's the interpretation of the rules or whatnot. But if you got any questions,
that makes
to my
sense.
man Nick Bennett.
Yeah.
You're telling me
No,
no,
that does make sense though. And I know that one other thing on here with like the rules and stuff that I think is kind of been wild that we've actually had to enforce is like the helmet stuff with eye protection.
I think that was just restating the rules again because eye protection was always needed, but
they
might have changed some wording with like throwing in like the OSHA 10 terms, like the ANSI spec and all that. I think that's probably what that was about. So
yeah.
So
And you know what's funny? I just copied this, but Caleb, I could have sworn that I read somewhere, like when they first posted this, that when they were talking about if you had just like a full face visor, that had to be down during your run. And I don't see that anymore. I could be blowing smoke here. Do you remember seeing that?
Remember. They always do a driver's meeting. They talk about what they expect. Like I'll be honest, my shield's always a quarter up, and then that deal so it's always fine. This is as long as it's not wide open, and then dirt's when you're running.
No, and that's where I think people have been, that they're trying to correct here is that they've got people that they don't have like any other eye protection besides a face shield, and they run with it wide open.
I'm screwed in the turbo car because my open face turbo car helmet. I always got my sunglasses on.
Hey, you've got a windshield though. Don't you? You have a windshield on that?
Yeah, I take it off when I race. I need to get the speed.
It helps mile per hour, don't it, K-Dub?
Oh yeah.
On the note of glasses with visors up, I'm one of those. I'm guilty about running with the visor up, but I always have my glasses on. I've always gotten the thicker lenses that are designed for industrial type settings, trying to have some kind of eye protection there.
Yeah. And look, I know especially for you guys that wear glasses, you have to leave it cracked a little bit because otherwise you start fogging up your actual, eyeglasses too. So I understand that. But yeah, keeping them wide open might not be the smartest choice.
That's me.
Weren't you, John, one the type that you'll flip it down halfway down the pass?
It's exactly what I do, honestly.
I'm gonna report you the first second I see it. Like, look at John.
Yeah, get it on video too, man. It's pretty epic.
Crap.
Hey, if you ever watch my dad, and I've got picture sequences of this, you'll see him let go of the trans brake. His arm will come up about the tree and smack his visor down the rest of the way as he's getting ready to shift it into high gear.
I swear to God, I'll report Mooch too. So you better have that visor now when I race.
Oh man.
Oh, you're gonna get it, Kyle.
So we got K-Dub's tuck ratings, and we're gonna have the helmet brigade for windshield or the face visors.
Yeah, I'll monitor all that situation. I'll let you guys all know. I'll report anybody if that gets in the way of me winning.
I'm screwed.
Well, I think a few other things that I would like to see in the safety role. You mentioned Valerie earlier, K-Dub. I know that she.
I'm so sorry, Valerie. I didn't mean to say.
No, it's good because she and like the rest of the Canadian team, I think they've been pretty legit about wanting to step up their game on a lot of safety stuff. And they're going to a full like airbag system jacket, which they're spendy, but dude, I've seen them in action with desert racing. They're legit. Basically, if you guys haven't, if you haven't seen these things, it's a full body armor, like full length sleeves
Airbag.
vest. But it's got active like chest protector, back protector, like elbow guards and everything. And then they have an inflatable airbag. So when you go down, the whole thing puffs up. And the only thing that they don't work well with is if you already have neck protection, because basically they go up and they stop at the helmet kind of level on there. You'll see these for desert racing, for like dirt bike guys, and they've made their way in a lot of like the super bike, you know, kind of GP racing stuff. They're really cool. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that PSDA would probably let people wear those without neck braces, just because they don't work together. What I mean, Caleb, have you heard anything about that?
They got neck protection inside that visor. I'm sure Jeff and Nick and them will kind of, or not kind of break, but say it's an exception. So
yeah,
it's probably just like probably add some wording to that. So as long as you can just prove it'll work with a helmet, I'm sure they'll be 100% fine.
So, you know, I think that that's kind of a great thing. One of the things that I would really like to see on the ATV side, and this is something that, you know, I've been a huge advocate for, and I've seen people get smacked by it. Thankfully, nothing's been too bad, but chain guards. They're required on pavement racing for any motorcycle. I don't understand why we don't have them in the ATV world. I know some people say, oh, well, I've got part of the frame or the wheelie bar mount or something. It'll stop it before it comes, whips you around. I've seen people get smacked in the back pretty good by some of those.
Yeah, I've seen someone too. I actually one of my bikes. I never thought about that. That'd be interesting. I think it's one of those things where these chassis are so far gone. I don't know how you can put a guard in there, honestly, with some of the way these swing arms are. But it's a good thought. Luckily,
Yeah,
PSDA, I don't think I've seen a couple chains shatter. I don't know if anyone really got hurt or not. So I don't know. I'm not really good at speak on that.
Now, This is kind of an old story, but ask John Force about running open chains. He had his first funny car was a Sidewinder, rear engine chain drive funny car, and he was banned from a track because the starter kept getting hit by his broken chains. So there's, I know it's a lot different. It's a lot heavier vehicle, a lot more power.
Oh yeah, much heavier.
It's still one of those things of, you guys, I don't know what size chains required or what, but when they come apart, there's a lot of force it takes to break a chain apart. And when something like that breaks, it goes everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, K-Dub, what do you think about all these bikes with no stator covers?
Ooh, I really don't have too. I don't have too big of a problem with that. There's a lot of them, but I just think it's dumb because I think you should protect your flywheel. But I don't think I've seen that being an issue, honestly. So I really have no opinion on that.
I've always been worried because that's a lot of spinning inertia.
Then you get a rock in there and tear out some of the wiring, and you got a ton of, or actually the voltage at the stator, so you're just shutting the bike down. But you're right, that is a lot of inertia, the flywheel going, and I've seen flywheels like come out and then the cover stop it, but if the cover's not there and the flywheel falls off and flies out, I mean,
I'm more worried about that, like hitting somebody in the leg, you know, and like, I mean, I haven't seen it happen necessarily, but like,
yeah, me either.
I would think those things are spinning fast enough. It would probably hurt pretty good. I don't know if it's gonna, you know, there's not like exactly super sharp. I don't know if it would cut your leg, but that's something that I would like to see, along with, you know, some sort of cover, case saver for the counter sprocket. I've seen several of those explode. And like, you know, because a lot of people, people again trying to run lightweight stuff, they'll go to an aluminum counter sprocket, which
or the aluminum nut, the aluminum sprocket nut. That was a big failure point. I still got a couple of those. I don't use them anymore. But
and those, man, like when Yeah,
It was a
well,
sketchy time back in 2020. I mean, there was a sketchy time back in 2015, whenever, or
big
2016,
time.
when everyone was figuring out lightweight stuff, but they didn't really know
The whole carbon fiber front end stuff and carbon fiber swing arms and
My
everything.
red
Like,
bike was the one that had the carbon fiber swing arm before I owned it. It was a four-stroke guy, the Parish Boys, they put together, and then apparently it just didn't work, so they had to take that off.
Now,
It was wild to think about. Someone
I got
tried.
to comment on one of my favorite rules that I've seen, that, especially thanks to K-Dub's tuck rating. But gotta ask Kyle, if you're behind someone far enough, you're gonna try and tuck down inside that side by side to get some extra speed.
Oh, I'm damn sure I am. I heard it's 2 mile an hour, so my head's going below my steering wheel. Especially if Johnny's right behind me and Johnny's gaining on me, that head is going on,
Especially with the windshield off, that makes a difference.
Windshield's off. I take my cover for my air cleaner, so I get all that air going.
Take the shoulder harness off, just run your lap belt so you can get down beside in the passenger side.
Underneath the dash.
I take the passenger seat out. I mean, I get serious. I ran a 525. I'm gonna call it out right now. I got the fastest stock razor with bolt-ons there is in the country. And if you think you have something fast, you come find me.
Ooh, that's bold claim.
I sense a call out.
It is
National call out. I love it.
Oh yeah.
That's some bold claims right there.
Yeah.
Stuff's crazy because I didn't realize how bad it was, and then like my friends know I'll get in the internet war if anybody, they just tell me to, so I just get a message one morning like, hey, they sent me a picture like, tell people they're not allowed to do this, and then I started a huge war on ATV drag racer about tucks. Is what I didn't know was, and I didn't know because I never really watched too closely at the Puerto Ricans. What they were doing was they'd get into high gear and then just stick their head down as far as they can go. And they claim, they're adamant it's 2 mile an hour. And then I can't prove it.
I don't believe it.
But the picture looks ridiculous.
The OnlyFans tuck at this point.
Yeah, it's wild. I saw one. I posted one of them. It was pretty wild how low they can get. And then, me being 6 foot tall and then having a little bit of a broiler, I can't do that at all. I posted a picture of her tuck rating A+, and she writes back, she's like, well, it's easy. I don't have too far to go.
Yeah, somebody was out there like, Missy, aren't you just reaching for the bars at that point? She's like, oh, fair.
She was like, maybe.
I don't mind people tucking down like that on a bike as long as they're looking forward and can see where they're going.
Oh yeah, I think it's one of those deals.
Without repeating vision.
Well, that's weird. Yeah, it's just weird.
We've been doing it for 10 years. There's no stopping us.
At that point,
it's like, well, don't do it.
At that point, why not just put a freaking fairing on the front of your quad?
Because of weight. Because of weight, Damian.
No,
that's everybody. Everyone wants to get. You know what, Caleb? I think that's actually going to be the next thing. People are going to start putting body panels back on these bikes because they're going to say, "Hey, you know what? Aerodynamics."
The bikes they're doing this on are the full plastic bikes, and that's the most pro stock thing our sport has because the rules, it's the most regulated rules where it has to be a stock chassis, stock plastic. They can do a little longer swing arms. Their paddles aren't really paddles anymore, but it's essentially pro stock. It used to be ridiculous. Now it's like they've opened it up a little bit, and these things fly. But it's like full plastic bikes. And you watch them. I mean, for like a full size plastic bike, you'll see they're running like 3.5s, many old motors they are, and it makes me look stupid because I got like a same engine and they're just flying by me, and then that's where they're doing it on, and then so they're just sticking their head underneath their handlebar like in the 5th gear and high gear, and they claim it's 2 mile an hour, and then I never really watched them do it. I never paid attention, but they all claim they have to do it, which I think it's bullcrap. They can just put their head down and bend the handle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't believe the 2 mile an hour thing. It's sand drags. Like there's so much inconsistency. I don't think you could even measure a 2 mile an hour difference consistently enough to be like, oh, this is what caused it.
It sounds like they're full of shit and they just like staring at their nuts.
And the people, but the people who are saying it, like I respect. So I was like, if you're saying it, but don't do that.
Okay. Well, we've talked a little bit, kind of getting into some of the car stuff. Let's really get into more of the car things. So, Damian, let's kick this off with you because I know you've got a lot of different times where you've been in arguments with different organizations and stuff on what you think the ATV side of the sport, or the car side of the sport really should start enforcing. So what are kind of some of your things that have been kind of floating around that you think that, we should really start seeing get implemented?
A couple of easier things. And again, it's not something we have to do wholesale at once. Small changes every year or two. Required fire suits for cars going 450 and faster, in my opinion. Because you take anything at the sand drags and you go to the asphalt world, and we go to, say, Edgewater or US 131, and we run an 8th-mile race, and our cars are probably going to run in the low fives, high fours, a lot of the stuff. Heck, there's some in our sport that might even run in the threes in the eighth. And we do that in a t-shirt and jeans. They're going to meet us at the ticket booth, not even give us our time slip, and kick us the hell out.
Fact.
Another one is as faster and faster, and we discussed this with Esteban when he was on for that previous Stone Valley race. I honestly think anything breaking 100 mile an hour anymore needs a parachute on the back.
I think you should have to pull it.
You don't have to pull it. Just have it there and ready to go. And you can ask Cody Trice, you can ask Kyle Farwick, you can ask Joe Gorney. The amount of times they've gone out the back end with the car sideways and pulled that chute, and it pulls it straight so you can get on the brakes sooner. So you're not fighting it.
You're in the sand. You're only going 100 and some mile an hour, just over 100, and you got to drive into those chutes to make them work right. And if you're pulling them late, like I hate to say it, but Trice pulls it late quite a bit. I've watched him several times, and it ain't doing shit. You can say it's pulling it straight, but at the time elapsed that they're pulling it at, it ain't doing shit. You have got to pull that thing going through if you watch like Doug and stuff with the timers and everything, and when it comes out, I mean, you hit the finish line, it's out. There is no time.
I know what you're saying, but at the same time, I have seen them pull the chutes and it pulled the car straight.
Yeah, and so the steering wheel at that mile an hour.
Yeah, no, but I do agree, John. I mean, I think that, and I don't know if it's 100 mile an hour. I don't know if it's like a 3.0, whether we do mile an hour and ET limit for it. I agree, Damian, that there should be chutes on the car. And, like Esteban was saying, even if you're not pulling it, there should be some sort of rule basically saying, hey, look, at some qualifying or test and tune pass, you should be required to pull it so that you go through and know that action. And yeah, preferably, like John is saying, like get that chute out early, do the full pro stock. It's it's out behind you as you're going through the finish sensors, because you want that thing to blossom as quick as you can.
At those speeds, the problem you got is the one time you don't decide to use it is the time you really needed it, and it's too late.
Yeah, I'll give you that. But it's one of those things. It's something I think as we
better to have it than not have it.
Exactly, because so many people now are building cars that are top eliminator capable of running 110, 120 mile an hour out the back door with no parachutes on them.
That's sketchy.
Yes.
Especially depending on where you're at. I mean, you go to a track like ours where we have a shorter shutdown than, say, Cleves.
Oh, it's sand. It's softer. It's going to slow you down easier.
It does slow you down good, though, at Silver Lake.
Oh, it does. But when you're up on top of it at 120 mile an hour, it's not doing much.
And it's a lot easier to stop there than it is at Cleves. I can tell you that.
I'll give you that.
Yeah. No, but yeah, short shutdown and fast car, no parachute.
Yeah. I
better be on those brakes.
Especially the track like that, know your surroundings and just pull it, man. That'd be a recommendation, I guess.
I would say one thing that I'd like to see more on the car side. This goes for any open cockpit, so not necessarily for dragsters per se, but Jeeps, buggies, UTVs. I'd like to see a lot more with the arm restraints, either doing like a window net or an arm restraint. I know a lot of people don't like wearing them because it does restrict you being able to move your hands, but I get so worried about all the flip overs that I've seen, and behind the camera, you start shooting that, you see a hand or an arm outside the cage a lot more often than it should be, and it's going to snap somebody's arm in half.
Oh yeah.
You should have seen KW go down the track in the turbo car when his door came open and he was reaching over to grab it. That was pretty classy.
It happens though sometimes. The door flies open and the wind.
I know. I got caught in the wind because the windshield went
Sadly, that's happened more than one time.
out.
Come on,
boy.
K-Dub. Get with the program. Shut that door.
Well, it's funny.
Yeah,
when
You do
I
realize
found
that
out
that's basically your
lasted 2 years,
parachute.
It was such an easy fix. It made me so mad how easy it was to fix that problem, that door not shutting right. Took me 5 seconds, and I dealt with that problem for 2 years.
Damian, I think too, even slower cars, I'd like to see them have like a single layer fire jacket. You know, even if they're not wearing, if they just wear jeans and stuff, I'd like to see people wear long pants
Like
in cars,
something where
period.
you're directly behind the engine with no firewall. We do have some slower Aldards and whatnot that run in the area, a fire jacket of some sort. And even when I say I want to see everyone that's running these times running a full fire suit, I'm not saying to go out there and you have to buy the full multi-layer suit that's going to give you 20 seconds of burn time before it starts boiling your skin off. It's one of those things that people will look at and say, okay, they're trying to be safe. Because that's the one thing you go to a drag strip and they look at all the videos of our sport and they see guys out there with a 1200 horse big block in a truck or a turbocharged car and they're running t-shirt and jeans. Oh, them some redneck.
Okay, and here to your point too, Damien. Like for we were talking with the ATV side, like, oh man, I got to spend $2,000 on all my racers and stuff. A single layer fire suit, pants and jacket, you can get that for $100, brand new.
Yes.
Yeah, if we're saying, hey, you got to run a fire suit, this is not talking like you got to get that multi-layer suit that's all customized and stuff. It's not, you're not freaking John Force. You're not going to be on fire from here to Australia. It's just some mild protection. And you're right, it does look more professional. And, that
Totally.
I'm sure helps. We're back to the insurance, problem with the tracks and stuff. Like, I'm sure that does help too. If they see photos from these events and everybody's got a fire suit and, decent helmets and all this protection, safety devices, that's a lot better than seeing somebody out there in a freaking, wife beater and a cracked, open face helmet.
Here's one thing you can add. I'm an electrical worker, and one thing you can add is like no polyester. Like have people not wear polyester. Polyester burns. Like wear a full cotton sweatshirt, jeans. At least it's not gonna melt to your skin at like at like the first flash.
Definitely.
So that
No,
could be
we had
a minimum. Like if you don't get a fire suit, at least like don't wear your like polyester like long sleeve shirt or whatnot, because
we had somebody out here probably, I think early 90s on the West Coast, they had a nylon jacket and it melted to some dude's skin.
Yeah, it happened.
And
like,
they outlawed.
We go to I just got through our arc flash, our annual arc flash training, and then like I wear arc flash clothes for work, but like it's important to wear cotton, not polyester, because if it gets in your skin, they gotta get the skin off you. It's no good.
Totally.
No good.
Another thing too is just sand drags. In general, doesn't matter what side of the sport you're on. There's a lot of home built rides out there, and we've seen people come out there with something that, oh, this used to race in 1976 with my dad rode it and stuff, and it's been in the barn for 30 years and stuff, and we brought it out and fixed it up and got it running. Sorry, but you try to run a 1970 safety requirement for any other form of drag racing, or shoot, doesn't matter what kind of racing you're probably doing. You try to take that circle track anywhere, if you want to take it to a demo derby, they're going to say there's a few things you need to update here.
Yeah.
And I mean, and this is kind of, this is, I think partly of it is on the racers, like use some common sense. That, super thin wall, weird tubing that was on somebody's sand rail. You need to go and embrace it a little more.
Caleb? Back at Little Sandy in Kentucky, there at one point they had to outlaw conduit chassis. People were building chassis out of VW cars with conduit.
I'm sure they're still around Cleves somewhere.
Anyone that races at Cleves and Brookville that went to Little Sandy in the 90s will attest to a guy down there with almost a stock Volkswagen motor running 380s in an electric conduit dragster.
I raced him. That thing was flying.
Thing probably weighed 400 pounds with the motor.
Probably
Oh
like
my
400
God.
pounds with the driver.
That's
I couldn't
sketchy.
believe it.
I mean, okay, look, I get it. Like, you're trying to make something fast, but guys, your life is worth a lot more than those couple of tenths.
Not according to them. That was that and moonshine.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's another thing too. What now we'll save that for the track stuff. But you know, Damian, I know you've done a lot of cage updates and stuff to the Jeep as you've gotten quicker with it. I'd love to see people do the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of Jeeps out there that it's like it's a 4-point cage. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, and a lot of them are out where you're at, where you guys are a lot stricter. And it amazes me seeing guys out there running 380s, 40s, 42s with a Jeep that looks like it rolled in off the dunes with a 4-point cage and 2 down bars on the back. And that's it.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
Well,
And I mean, like that's something that like that's maybe fine for a certain ET, but as you keep going quicker, you need to have, you know, more multi-point cage in there. I like the Pro Mod Halos. I think those are a really smart idea, especially for a lot of these open cockpit cars. John, for the dragsters, I mean, I know we can see it in your photo. You've got some padding on those bars. I'm sure you've rattled your head around a time or two.
I got to use them at, you know, you talk about accidents and stuff. One of the things I was going to get across is one of the big things is you just don't know when that shit's going to happen. You just don't. I mean, I'm sitting there making a pass. I'm hunky-dory, go across the finish line. Next thing you know, I'm cresting the hill and smashing into a car.
yeah.
You know, what are the odds of that happening? Nobody would ever foreseen that happening. I certainly didn't foresee that happening, but it happened. And luckily I had all my gear on. Everything was fine for me. You know, I got out, bumped, bruised. My ego was hurt, but I walked away.
Yeah, it was not a fun day.
No.
So yeah, I mean, like that, and that's the important part too. All of these safety, you know, whether it's a requirement or recommendation, you know, again, these are things that they're not going to keep you from walking away completely injury free. I cannot stress that enough because there's so many people, and I think probably, you know, like we were talking earlier, they're more going to argue behind the keyboard on this, but they think like, oh, why even require all this? That's not going to save your life. Well, you know what? You can crash without a helmet and you'll probably be okay most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that you shouldn't wear a helmet.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that you know is a safety requirement in our sport and other sports that it's no guarantee to save your life, but it is there to try to mitigate the injuries in the event that you do have an accident.
Exactly.
Right.
Let's move on to our last part here. So we've talked about the ATV side, a lot of the PSDA rules, some things that we think are great, some things we think that maybe they should go a little bit further on, some additional things with that, some cool things we think within the car side, things that could really up the safety on a lot of those. Let's get to the last component of this. So this is what should the track owners and promoters do between their implementation of safety stuff and what things they can do to the facilities themselves to make it safer. I'm going to kick it off, and I am going to call out all of these tracks that let people go out and get away with murder on the safety stuff. I'm not saying you have to go and implement all the PSDA stuff. You don't have to go and give the full gravel Rama, you know, rule set for you know, cage requirements and fire suits and everything. But why on God's earth do we see tracks like Atoka, like Thunder Valley, like Little Sandy let people go out and run cars that are 380 and quicker in shorts, in a tank top,
Right.
no fire suit? A lot of these cars that are just, anybody would look at them and be like, that car is a death trap. And they're right. They don't even have to be educated in any kind of chassis building. Why are we seeing tracks let people do that?
Totally.
Yeah.
You
Are
got
they
those.
really that afraid that they're going to lose their racers
Well, I think
because they
that's what
say
I think it boils down to a lot of that, Caleb. I think a lot of people, like I discussed earlier, are just bullheaded, don't want to change their ways, and oh my God, you make me wear long sleeves after I've meant 20 years, and now all of a sudden it makes a difference, and then they throw their hands up. I'm not coming back, and
you know what
I
I say though to those people, John?
have
Screw
fun finding
you.
a new sport.
Fucking get out of the sport because you are an embarrassment to the sport of sand drags. You're an embarrassment to trying to be a safety, like role model for any of the kids coming up in the sport. I don't want to see we're going to see, kids get really hurt because they're looking at dad. They're looking at their favorite driver that goes out there and wears t-shirts. And
People don't realize how it all interlocks when it comes to insurance and spectators and safety and no accidents and blah, blah, blah. It keeps the sport going. And you start having all these little things go wrong, and they're going to start cracking down, whether it be insurance, whether it be
And you know
anything.
what is like that needs to be something that all these tracks need to get together and say, hey, look, we're all going to go and say the very bare minimum, you have to wear long sleeves. I don't care what you're riding. I don't care what you're in. You have to wear long sleeves. And if every track goes out there and says that you have to wear long sleeves, guess what? There's no track. If that whoever that person is that says I'm not wearing long sleeves
ain't racing that day.
They're not going to race. They're not racing any days. If all the tracks actually get together and stop being bullied by the racers, screw that person. Guess what? You're going to make more people be interested in the sport if you make it look more professional.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
We're past the days of our dads out here, and it's just a backyard redneck fest. It needs to start looking better.
The prime example and the worst promoted mud or sand has been in the last 20 years happened not a few years ago in Texas when the street outlaws went and drove mud trucks. Hell, some of them didn't even fit in the driver's seat to where they could fully spelt themselves in the truck they were running. And this was on national TV.
It's an embarrassment. It's an absolute freaking embarrassment that the facilities would let this happen. And I'm sorry, look, racers are going to be bullheaded. They're going to go out there and they're not going to comply. And all of these people out there that are either a promoter or a track owner need to just say, you will not set foot on my track until you have the proper safety gear. Period. It's the easiest thing. We're not talking going out there with a multi-layer, $30,000 fire suit, $10,000 carbon fiber helmet, neck restraint. We're saying you need to put on a freaking long sleeve t-shirt. If you're so freaking hard that you can't put on a long sleeve t-shirt to make your 4 or 5 second pass down the 300-foot strip, you deserve to go home. Guess what? You know what? There's plenty of open riding area. There's dunes out there. You can go and do whatever you want, whenever you want. But if you're coming to an actual racetrack, it should be expected that you have some basic common sense, some basic safety gear to protect yourself, to protect the track's interests, to protect the owner's interests, to protect the spectator's interests.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's very hard, and that shouldn't be a very tall ask.
Totally agree.
Damian, I know you've seen, and you sent us in our group chat, some really sketchy things, talking a little bit more about what facilities can do just with the way that their grounds are set up. Man.
Billy shared one of them to our page, and that was the incident where there was a Jeep Comanche and a Jeep Cherokee somewhere, I believe, in Texas, close to the Mexican border, a mud race where there was about a 6-foot gap between the edge of the pit and a chain link fence that there's people lining this fence, hanging over it, watching these races. Their tents set up right next to it, 300 foot past the end of the track. And this Cherokee went through the fence and into somebody's canopy. Thankfully, I don't think anybody was injured, but what goes through your mind to think that's even remotely okay to put on a race that way?
Yeah. And you could put the blame on the spectators, they probably shouldn't have been there. But the facility was set up so that they could spectate there. There's no guardrails. There's no nothing. They didn't get told like they couldn't set up there. And if they were told, stop the race, say, hey, we're not sending another car down the track until those spectators move out of that spot. If the track owners actually had an issue with it. I don't think they did in that case.
Obviously.
But why on earth like do they let people go down in the shutdown area with no guardrails, no barrier protection? It blows my mind.
Yeah, and this goes back to Brian Loans did a podcast about the worst day in drag racing. It's on his YouTube channel. I hope people can find it. If not, we'll try and put a link into the description here probably. But he discusses an event that happened in the 1960s in Atlanta, Georgia, or around Atlanta, Georgia. And a funny car went through the crowd and killed multiple people because they were lining the track past the quarter mile. And this is the 60s late 60s when funny cars were really starting to take off. I may be wrong on the years, but it was late 60s, 70s. And this almost put a stop to drag racing in Georgia for a long time. But if they figured this out in the 70s on the asphalt, why can't we do it now in the dirt?
Yeah,
I know
look,
we're grassroots level racing, but dang it, we can look a little more professional than that.
Well, and look, I understand if, because barriers are expensive. Whatever you're using for a barrier, I understand that most tracks don't have the funds to go and set up a quarter mile of finish line guardrails or K rails or something to keep spectators safe. Here's the simple solution. Don't let your spectators go past a certain point. Say, hey, look, you've got tailgating. We'll put in a grandstand. We'll put, raise the dirt up here so you can watch, but you have to do that back away from the track behind the safety barriers. Mm-hmm. That's the easy fix.
Oh, yeah.
And I know we've shared some other ones with, some other different mud races and stuff where even safety crews have been at the bad end of cars going a little wild in the shutdown, hitting a fire truck head on. Damian, you probably remember that one. I think it was a blown, altered mud rail.
It was the S-kicker rail running a really rough pit. The driver gets shook around, knocked out, and at full throttle hits a fire truck. And that completely totaled the chassis in one go.
Yeah, but that's something that shouldn't have even happened. Mm-hmm. There shouldn't have been any obstacles. And this goes for not just spectators. There shouldn't be any obstacles down in the shutdown that racers could potentially run over. If there is something out there, I know a lot of people use those portable light towers. You got to get something up there, some sort of barrier where if they're going towards it, bounce off that barrier so that, they're not getting tangled up in more debris and stuff.
Right. At least have it a little ways off the track. I know Franklin County started using one in the shutdown area for there because the shutdown does get dark, but they keep it a good 50, 60 feet off the side of the track to where it's at least tried to be out of the way.
Yeah. Now, this is something for you guys because I see a lot of tracks that do still use like the actual metal guardrails. I know that I believe for like NHRA, they will not sanction a track if it has those old school metal guardrails because there's been issues with those being unsafe, cutting into vehicles, and especially when we're talking about ones that just have the single metal rail at the top, stuff going underneath those guardrails. I personally, I've seen a few ATV only tracks and stuff that still use those old school ones that don't have the double metal rails. I'm really worried about a rider coming off of a bike and going under that guardrail. I mean, K-Dub, you probably have seen some sketchy things with different tracks with those guardrails. Like, thankfully we haven't really.
I almost ran into it. With my superior driving skills, I got the bike straightened out, but I went sideways on two wheels right towards it. This guy has a racetrack in his backyard, and his guardrail started at 60 foot. So I went straight towards them. It's amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm worried that we're going to go and, again, cut somebody's arm off, or God forbid, their helmet catches on that. If they're sliding underneath, they come off their bike.
Well, look what happened to
I
Mike Goodell. Look what happened to Mike Goodell back in the Kentucky days when he hit the guardrail at Little Sandy and it tore his arms up and everything.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't know about that.
I hadn't heard about it, but I know I can visualize what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Having ran, because growing up with Azro, we had a quads class that would follow Azro, and whenever we go down to Kentucky is where we'd see all these lay down 3-wheelers running ridiculously fast times, which at that point was sub 4 seconds for an ATV.
Yeah, that was an English group. Yeah. But yeah, Mike Goodell had that bad accident, and he had got into the guardrail, and then it tore his arms up going through the guardrail. He had multiple surgeries getting fixed.
Oh, you can still see it on him too. His arm doesn't really work well. Like you can tell when you're looking at him.
Step in any time if you know any more about it, but
I don't know much about it. That was a little bit before my day, but you can definitely tell. That's why he rides. That's why he drives a buggy now.
Yeah.
Can't blame him there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the wife told him no more bikes.
But that's a good point. I mean, like that I'm not like necessarily saying that we need to go tomorrow, say, hey, if you don't have concrete barriers, like shut the track down and stuff. But I do think that that's something that, more tracks should work towards. If they still want to have the metal barriers, make sure you've got the bottom section of that covered. I've seen plenty of tracks, Dome has got that for part of their barrier, but it's got the top and bottom metal rails, so at least you can't go underneath it.
I know Brookville and I believe Michigan still got just the single rail. But Michigan's at least got sand piled up around it.
I think ours is a double rail. I can't remember though. Now that I can't think about it now that I'm.
Yeah, but see, this is something that I think the track owners and promoters really need to start thinking about. We all know they generally don't make a ton of money, but any profits that they do make, part of that needs to go into updating the safety. I know when all of these rules came out for the PSDA, one of the things that people talked about is like, hey, we need to have an ambulance on site, and I think that's a great idea, because as much as you can stabilize somebody, like sometimes you need to get somebody out of there quick.
Financially, ambulances are insane to set down.
It is.
Looking at the pictures,
luckily the
PSDA
we have some nurses, and we have some paramedics. We had Joseph Evans, and we have medics bags to kind of try to get someone stabilized before the paramedics come. So I think tracks, like, it's insane. Like like $200-$300 an hour. I might even be wrong with those numbers, so that adds up. But if you get like if they have a medic bag and then like an emergency response plan, I think that's at a minimum.
I would like to see with that tracks that, that if they don't have their own, ambulance out there, or, out west, we've got, Motorsport Safety Solutions that kind of takes that role. I'd like to see tracks have just a dedicated paramedic that is, has that whole kit, has the backboard, has a vehicle, is trained and knows how to get out there. And I personally would like to see them not be in a role where they're doing anything else except ready to jump into action. Because I've seen this happen with a lot of races where, they're the starter, right? Or, they're running the lanes, or they're up in the tower, and it's like, that's their paramedic. Well, all of a sudden something happens, like, oh, I'm up in the tower. They're trying to run downstairs, get out the door, get into, the ATV or the side-by-side or something. Oh, shoot, where's the pack at? Like, I'd like to just see it be a dedicated person. That's their job for the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
John, you mentioned this about some moonshine being involved. I think we've all seen a few racers that maybe have, put back a few beers in the pits, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, cool, yeah, there's a class running tonight. Yeah, I think I'm sober enough. What do we think we could be done on that end? Because I think that's another kind of dangerous spot that tracks have been very lucky about.
I think it's a very dangerous spot, and I think people should know their limits or not do it. I mean, to be honest with you, period.
Some of our best friends that we race with can be very bad about it in this area.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, I think most tracks are cool. Like they are gonna say, hey, like don't have alcohol in the staging lanes. Like we usually are pretty good about that for the most part.
Oh,
But yeah, you go back to pits and stuff, and you know somebody's working on something, they're pounding back beers, and then they jump back in the lanes. It's like, dude, can you walk straight?
The
Yeah.
PSDA, they're not allowed to have alcohol in the lanes. So Jeff Gio kicked out his son-in-law's bike because the son-in-law had a beer in his hand, and then he was pitting for the bike. He disqualified the whole team for it. So that's a big rule at PSDA. So you better not be drinking or better not be smoking, and they can tell you're slurring your speech or not. They'll just boot you. Now you
Yeah,
go
no,
to
I like
Cleves,
that.
that's a different story.
I mean, I'm not necessarily saying we need breathalyzers in the back of the lanes or anything, but like, you know, I mean, it shouldn't even be something that I think tracks should have to talk about, but maybe some of them should, just because I've seen some sketchy stuff.
Right. I mean,
Oh,
you know, I
yeah.
remember the first time I ever went down raced at Brookville, and it was the very first time I ever seen. I think it was the very first time I ever seen so many people drink and race at one time. 'Cause I was down there and I'm like in the staging lanes with my dad, and I got my helmet on. He's pulling me through the lanes, and I'm watching these guys hand their beers over to their pit people. And I seen it happen like 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, God, what's going on here?
And it's
No,
something
and see,
that they have
that's
gotten a lot better
ridiculous.
about, but there are still a few that do
That
it a
was
lot
back in
more than they should.
that was back in the late '90s when that happened. So
Yeah. But you know that's another pain point too, where you know these track owners have to get some backbones and just be like, there is a zero tolerance, you know, alcohol policy in the lanes, or if you're driving a race car. Period. I don't care what's going on. If we catch you, you are done for the weekend. Not just that event. You're done for the weekend. And you know, again, I'm you know, I probably should be more after this. And I think you know we were trying to get Ricky on here. I feel like Ricky would have made me stir up a little bit angrier here on some of these safety regulations. So maybe we'll try to see if we can't get that in a later episode. I'm sure we're going to have a lot more discussions about this, you know, throughout the length of Paddle Talk. But you know,
counseling with Ricky.
these trackers need to get backbones. They need to stop being afraid of the racers. They need to, like you said, you know, John, like it's a slow introduction. Doesn't have to be all at once. We don't have to tomorrow say everything is now required, but we need to start slowly working towards a safer sport, because you know we've seen and look, I've seen, you know, the last fatality, last fatality in an actual racing event out here in California. Okay, with Marcus Norris's wreck. Now, he did have all his safety gear on. That was an absolute freak accident above all things. Could there have been things that we could have done to prevent that? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, could they have had some sort of contingency plan so that, hey, if a car's throttle stuck, could we have built up a sand barrier at the shut down the track? Maybe that would have saved his life. I don't know. And I'm tired of seeing my friends, you know, and friend of friends like out there getting hurt because they're not taking their own safety seriously. And the tracks that they're racing at don't care at all to force them to be safer. We need to start doing better. And you know, that goes for everybody here with World Sandrek News too. You know, call us out. You know, like K-Dub's talking about, he's going to do the visor up call out. Call us out on it, because we want to be good advocates and role models for everybody on this too. And you know, again, use the appropriate safety gear for how quick and how, you know, what type of vehicle you're in. Step up as you need to. Yeah. So I don't know. Closing thoughts here, guys. Anything that you guys want to throw in on the safety talk, either the PSDA rules, car stuff, tracks, before we wrap up here?
I think we've hit on all the stuff I can really would want to tonight.
My biggest thing is, as I said earlier, is be ready for anything. I mean, like I said, you might think, oh, yeah, it's gonna happen. This ain't gonna be me. Well, I'll tell you right now, it's happened to me like 3 times where I didn't think it'd be me, and it was my ass.
Well, let's see. You've at Cleves, you've had obviously you've ran into a car. You've had a car jump you.
Yeah. I did a launch at a hill climb in Michigan.
In the same car you got jumped in.
And a hit on the dunes.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, you got to be ready for more than you expect to happen for sure.
And I didn't
Have
think
any other last thoughts?
No, I think we covered everything. I think I'm staying safe by running my 5.4 second razor, seat belted in, and then my 4.2 Banshee. So I'll make sure I got my gloves on though. So I should be all good. That's my thoughts.
What kind of gloves?
Oh, do be determined.
Okay.
I'll let you guys know in May. That's when May Kyle has to figure that out.
Also, just for any of the ATV guys, I don't think that latex gloves are going to be allowed. So don't try to skirt around the rules.
My 10 mil latex gloves will work. I bet those things would stick pretty good.
Oh yeah, I can just see it now. You have them permanently blue fingers.
That'd be
all
funny.
right, guys. Let's go ahead and wrap up this thing. Want to give a shout out. Go on to worldsanddragnews.com and check out our photo tab. You can go on there and check out all of the galleries from the very beginning of World Sand Drag News up until the 2025 season. We've got tons of galleries in there from all the tracks across the U.S. Go back there. Lots of history of the sport. And you can go on there, and it's a great way to support us here at World Sand Drag News for everything that we do. Buy our photos on there. We've got digital downloads where you get the full high-resolution photo. You can do with that whatever you want. Throw it on the desktop, use it on your social media, go out and get t-shirts made with it, koozies, take it to, whatever print shop and get a big banner for the race shop. And, again, it's something that really helps us get out and support the sport. So visit the photo tab on worldsanddragnews.com and get a photo of your favorite racer. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up here, guys. So stay with us next time here at Paddle Talk. We'll be back on the next episode.